Bonjour and good morning. Welcome to WASA Distance Education and PLAR English. And today we are going to continue on with Lesson 1. We'll be finishing up Lesson 1 this week. So of course that means that you need to get your key questions finished and get them sent out to me for marking as soon as possible, so that next week we'll be able to focus on Lesson 2. So just a couple of reminders, announcements, reminders. Classes are Mondays and Wednesdays from 11 to 12 Central Standard Time. So if you want to join our classes, there are two ways of doing that. You can join on radio by calling into the studio, or you can join using Zoom. And the instructions for joining on radio and on Zoom are in your study guide, or if you don't have a study guide, you can contact your DEC or contact me. All PLAR English students are welcome to attend classes, so you don't have to be signed up for radio Zoom classes to attend the classes. Any PLAR English student is welcome to attend the classes. To contact me, you can use email, phone, or send a message on Facebook. And students who were working on the PLAR from last year can keep working on the key questions and continue to submit them to your teacher. So even if you're using the version from last year, you can still submit that, and it will be marked. PLAR classes from last year are still available on YouTube. So if you go to my YouTube, B. Osman Wasa, and go to my playlist, then you will find the PLAR Math for last year and the PLAR English for last year. But I have been updating the PLAR English classes as I teach them. So you'll find that there are some classes from this year there and some classes from last year as well. The later classes are the ones from last year. So for anybody who is ahead of where we are in class, you can go and watch those classes. Something new this year for PLAR students: all PLAR students can write the culminating activity before you do the lessons and the key questions. So if you feel confident about your skills in any of the subject areas, math, English, science, or history and geography, you can write the test or the culminating activity before you do the lessons. If you then pass the culminating activity, you don't have to do the lessons and the key questions, and you can just move on to the next subject. So instead of doing all of the lessons, key questions, and submitting them, you can just do the culminating activities, and then you could probably get all 5 of those subjects done in a week or so. So depending on how quickly it takes or how much time it takes you to do the culminating activities. So if you do that, then you get to move on to your senior questions. If you're not successful with the culminating activity, whichever one you choose to do, then you will have to do the lessons and complete the key question to be submitted for marking, and then you'll get another opportunity to write a culminating activity after the work is finished. So for each one, not for all of them, but for each one, there is a culminating activity. So that means 5 culminating activities if you have to do all 5 subjects. Or if you only have to do one subject, then you only have one culminating activity to worry about. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you have any questions, you can talk to your DEC, or you can contact me or Jovi here at WASA. Just a reminder that in your lessons, there are 2 types of questions: the support questions and the key questions. So the support questions are the practice questions that you do before you do the key questions. The answers for the support questions are near the end of the lesson, right before the key questions. So if you go through your lesson, it will say answers to support questions. So check your answers against the answers that are at the end of the lesson and see how you're doing. If you're getting most of the answers correct, then you move on to the key questions. The key questions are the ones that have marks assigned to them. Those are the ones you send me for marking. Okay? Don't rush your work. Take your time and make sure that you submit those key questions for marking. Only the key questions, as I mentioned. Okay, and as soon as you start working on the lessons, you should be working on your key questions right away. So if you read a section, do the support question, you're doing well with the support question, then move on to the key question. If you are struggling with the support questions, then that means that you're not understanding what you're, completely what you're doing. You need some extra help, so you can read the section again or contact me for help with it before you move on to the key questions. Okay, for submitting your work, there are several different ways to do it. You can go through your DEC, so you can give your work to your DEC, and your DEC will send it out to us here in Sioux Lookout. If your learning center is closed for whatever reason, you don't have a learning center, or your DEC is away, then you can submit your own work. So one way to do that is if you have access to a scanner, you can scan and email your work to studentwork@nnec.on.ca. That's the email address. And make sure that you CC it to me. Or if you have access to a fax machine, you can fax it to our toll-free number. Okay, if you don't have a scanner or a fax machine, you can still submit your work. You can use your smartphone, and with your smartphone you can do one of two things. One is you can take photos of your work, or two, use a built-in scanner on your phone to scan your work, and then you can email it to that same address, studentwork@nnec.on.ca, and make sure you CC it to me. Or you can send it by Facebook Messenger. So take the photos or the scan and then just send it to me through Messenger. Okay, so several different ways of submitting your work. Another way is to use our outdoor mailbox. So if you live in Sioux Lookout, or you live in the surrounding area and you come to Sioux Lookout for grocery shopping or whatever, you can drop your work off at WASA. There is an outdoor mailbox located on the side of the WASA building next to the door. Or if you come to the front door, knock on the front door, you can give it to our receptionist or someone else who answers the door. You can also use Google Docs to send me your work. So just if you use Google Docs to do your work, then just send me the link to your work and I can mark it that way. And then the last way is to use Google Classroom. So Google Classroom is completely online. You sign in and you get all the work, and you can do the work online and submit it online as well. So completely paperless if you want to do it that way. Okay, so again, lots of ways to submit your work. So make sure that once you get your lessons, if you're not going to write the culminating activity first, then get started on your lessons and make sure that you send out your work regularly. Don't wait until everything is done to send it all out at once, because then if you've made mistakes throughout, you have a lot of work to redo. So it's better if you send it out a little bit at a time. Okay, so we're going to start off with a review of what we did last day. So last week on Wednesday, we talked about different types of sentences. So we talked about what a sentence is. So a sentence is basically a complete idea, a complete thought. Basically a simple sentence, has one idea in it. And there are different types of sentences. So some sentences just state a fact. Some sentences ask something. Some sentences show strong emotion. And some sentences give commands or tell people to do stuff. So the different types of sentences are, number one, statements. So statements are what we call declarative sentences. So you're making a statement, or you are stating a fact, and a declarative sentence always ends with a period. So for example, we own a cat. Okay, you're just stating a fact, and at the end you put a period. Okay, so that's a very basic sentence. One idea, we own a cat. The second type of sentence asks questions, and these are called interrogative sentences. So as I said, they ask questions, and of course, because they ask questions, they end with a question mark. So, where is the cat? Okay, so you're asking something, you're expecting someone to answer you. Number 3, exclamations. And exclamations are called exclamatory sentences. And these make statements, but they show strong emotion. And of course, they end with an exclamation mark to show that there's a lot of emotion in there. So, for example, the cat is cute. Okay, the cat is cute. So you're putting a lot of information, a lot of emotion in there. Oh, the cat is cute. You know, so you say it with a lot of feeling. And then we have commands, and these are called imperative sentences. So these sentences, they either give a command or they make a request. But in either case, they're asking you to do something, not as a question, but as a statement. And they can end with a period or with an exclamation mark, depending on the emotion. So if you're just saying to someone, feed the cat, then you're going to end with a period. Okay, so it's just a statement, but you're telling somebody to do something. Or if you say, feed the cat, so you're yelling it, then you would use an exclamation mark. But in any case, it's still a command. You're still telling somebody to do something. So don't get mixed up. If you say, feed the cat with an exclamation mark, that's not an exclamatory sentence. It's still an imperative sentence because you're actually still giving a command or asking somebody to do something, a polite request. So be careful with commands that end with an exclamation mark. Okay, so those are the 4 different types of sentences. Okay, the other important thing that you need to know about a sentence is in order for a sentence to be complete, it must have a subject, which is a noun, so a person, place, or thing that the sentence is about, and a predicate, which is the verb, plus everything else that comes after the verb. So the predicate tells what the noun or the subject is doing. So the subject is a part of a sentence, as I said, which something is told or asked, about which something is told or asked. So the dog ate his food. So who or what is doing something in that sentence? Well, the dog is. The dog is the thing that ate its food. So the dog is the subject. Okay? Most of the time you can say who or what is doing something and you can get an answer. But sometimes you can't ask the question who or what is doing something just because of what the question is. So for example, in the, not the question, sorry, the statement. So in the sentence, dogs are better pets than cats. Sorry, you can't say who or what is doing something because nothing is doing anything in that sentence. So there's no actual action. Dogs are better pets than cats. So in that case, then you ask yourself, who or what is the sentence about? Okay, what are we learning about? In this case, what are we learning about? We're learning about dogs. And we're learning that they're better pets than cats. So the subject in this sentence is dogs. Okay. So in the next one, next sentence, unfortunately, the sweater is not on sale. Okay. Again, in this example, nobody is doing anything. Okay. You can't ask who or what is doing something because nobody's doing anything. But what is the sentence about? The sentence is about the sweater. What about the sweater? It's not on sale. So in this case, our subject is the sweater. The sentence is about the sweater. Okay. Okay. So that's the subject. Who or what the sentence is about. The predicate, as I mentioned, is the verb and everything that comes after the verb. So the predicate is what that person or thing is doing, the verb, or what new information we learn about that person or thing. So the predicate is the part of speech that tells or asks something about the subject. So we're finding out information about the subject. To find the predicate, first you have to find the subject. Then you ask, What is blank doing? What is the sentence saying about blank? Or what information do we learn about blank? So in the example, the dog ate his food. Okay, so first of all, let's identify the subject. Who or what is doing something? The dog. Then we ask, to find the predicate, we ask, what did the dog do? He ate his food. So ate is the verb, his food is the rest of the sentence. So this makes up the predicate. Okay, the verb plus whatever comes after the after the verb. Again, sometimes you cannot ask the question, what is something doing? Like you can with what is the dog doing, or what is the person doing. So in the example, dogs are better pets than cats. What's the sentence about? We already said that it's about dogs, because we're saying that they are better pets than cats. The subject also is most often at the beginning of the sentence. The subject, again, what's the sentence about? It's about dogs. The predicate, though, you can't say who or what, or sorry, what are the dogs doing? Because in this sentence, they're not actually doing anything. So there's no action. So we need to try a different question. So then we ask, what is the sentence saying about the dogs? Okay, what is it saying about the dogs? It's saying that dogs are better pets than cats. So are better pets than cats? That's the predicate. Are is our verb. And the rest of it, better pets than cats, is what comes after the verb. So that's the predicate. Next example, unfortunately the sweater is not on sale. What's the sentence about? We said that the subject of this sentence is the sweater. It's all about the sweater. Well, what about the sweater? The sweater's not doing anything. So we ask, what information do we learn about the sweater? We learn that it is not on sale. That's the predicate. And the verb is, which is a part of the verb to be. Okay, so that's the verb. That's probably the trickiest verb, because it's a being verb, not a doing verb. So just always remember that is, am, are, those are all part of the verb to be, and they're all verbs. So what is the sentence about? It's about the sweater. What about the sweater? What do we learn about the sweater? We learn that it is not on sale. Okay, so sometimes it's easy to pick out the predicate. Sometimes it's not as easy, so you have to ask different questions. All right, so that's what we did last day. So today, so now in lesson 1, we've covered all the parts of speech. We've covered capitals, punctuation, types of sentences. So today we're going to pick up from where we left off, and we're going to look at combining sentences excuse me, and word choice. So first of all, we'll start off with some, we started this last day, but we didn't have time to finish it. So some common sentence errors. So we talked about what a sentence is. A sentence is a complete thought. But sometimes we write an answer to a question and we don't put it as a complete sentence. We don't put it as a complete thought. So for example, through the door. So that could be the answer to the question, where did he go? Through the door. In the other room could also be the answer to the question, where did he go? In the other room. Over there is also the answer to that question. Where did he go? Over there. So these are all answers to the question, but they are not complete sentences. Okay? Because by themselves, they don't make any sense. So if you just said through the door, what about through the door? Or in the other room? Well, what's in the other room? Over there. What's over there? It's not complete. It doesn't have a subject, and it doesn't have a complete predicate. So those are not complete sentences. So in English, when we write, we always want to make sure that our writing makes sense. So we always want to make sure that we are writing in complete sentences. So if you're answering a question on a test or for an assignment, make sure that your sentence is complete. So often, this is when we get a lot of incomplete sentences when you're answering a question. Okay, so because Tom is the boss, and since he left work early without permission. Well, what about it? Because Tom is the boss, what? Does something happen because Tom is the boss? Since he left work early without permission. Well, what about it? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't give any information. So these sentences might be the answer to the question like, why did he lose his job? Well, he lost his job because Tom is the boss. Okay, Tom doesn't like him, maybe, I don't know. He lost his job since he left work early without permission. Okay, so those are reasons why he lost his job. But if we don't have that first part, he lost his job because we don't know what's going on. Okay, so other incomplete sentence examples, even though he needs help, if they study enough as they had invested in the company. They make no sense by themselves. So we always have to make sure that we have enough information in our answers. Okay, so sentence fragments. So the parts of sentence, they're not complete sentences. So the next type of sentence error is a run-on sentence. Run-on sentences are sentences that are not connected by appropriate linking language, such as conjunctions, and they use too many clauses rather than using periods and linking language, such as conjunctive adverbs. So run-on sentences, most people think that they're really, really long. Well, they are sometimes, but they don't always have to be really long. So the first type of run-on sentence are not connected by appropriate linking language, such as conjunctions. Usually, like I said, leaves out a word, and it's usually a conjunction, and that word is required to connect an independent and a dependent clause. So for example, the students did well on the test, they didn't study very much. Okay, so there's two ideas in there. One idea is that they did well on the test. The second idea is they didn't study very much. But it's not complete because is that the students did well on the test, but they didn't study very much. Okay, so something is missing in that sentence to make it complete. Anna needs a new car. She spent the weekend visiting car dealerships. Okay, again, something is missing from the sentence. So we need a conjunction in there to join the two ideas together. So we could say, as I mentioned, the students did well on the test, but they didn't study very much. Or however, they didn't study very much. Anna needs a car, so she spent the weekend visiting car dealerships. So just by adding those two little tiny words, now the sentences sound better and they make more sense. Another common run-on sentence occurs when using too many clauses. So this is the second type. So repeating a clause over and over again instead of using a period or a semicolon or some other type of punctuation. This often occurs, most of the time it's the word and that's repeated. So in the example, we went to the store and bought some fruit, and we went to the mall to get some clothes, and we had lunch at McDonald's, and we visited some friends. Okay, there's too many ands in that sentence. So we need to change that. We went to the store and bought some fruit. Change that to a period. Get rid of the and. Then you can start by saying, then we went to the mall to get some clothes and we had lunch at McDonald's. Period. Get rid of the and. After that, we visited some friends. Okay, so you don't want all that information in one long sentence. You want to shorten it. We went to the store and bought some fruit. Then we went to the mall to get some clothes and we had lunch at McDonald's, or where we had lunch at McDonald's. And then after that we visited some friends. So get rid of all the ands. Avoid repetition. Okay, another common sentence error is incorrect tense. So we talked about tenses when we talked about verbs. So past tense, present tense, and future tense. So make sure that the tense used corresponds to the situation. So make sure if in a sentence you're using more than one verb, make sure that the verbs are the same tense. So in the examples, they fly to visit their parents in Toronto last week. So it happened last week, so it's in the past, which means the verb needs to be in the past. So instead of they fly, we need they flew to visit their parents in Toronto last week. Okay, because fly is the present tense, we need it in the past week tense, because it's last week. Alex bought a new car and drives it to her home in Sioux Lookout. So we've got two verbs, bought and drives. They're in different tenses. Bought is past tense. Drives is present tense. Okay, we can't have two different verb tenses in the sentence. So Alex bought a new car and drove it to her home in Sioux Lookout. So we have to make sure that our tenses are the same. So we've got a past tense and drove is past tense. Okay, incorrect verb form. Certain verbs in English take the infinitive. So the infinitive, remember, is to go, to see, to shop. Okay, so it's the verb with the word to in front of it. That's called the infinitive. So certain verbs in English take the infinitive and others take the gerund, which is the ing form. So it's the verb seeing, shopping, going with ing. It's important to learn these verb combinations. Also, when using the verb as a noun, use the gerund form of the verb. So incorrect, he hopes finding a new job. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't sound right. So he hopes to find a new job. So using the infinitive form. Next sentence, Peter avoided to invest in the project. So in this case, we don't want the infinitive form of the verb. Peter avoided investing in the project. Okay, that's correct. So sometimes you need to use the infinitive form, other times you don't. So make sure you're using the correct form of the verb, the infinitive or the gerund. And parallel verb form. So if you're writing in the present, so something that's happening now, present continuous tense, using the ing form, use the ing form in your list. So incorrect, she enjoys watching TV, play tennis, and cook. So so this is what we call present continuous because she enjoys it all the time. So watching TV, it should be playing tennis and cooking. Okay, parallel verb form. ing, ing, ing. All the verbs end with ing. Another example, I've lived in Italy, working in Germany, and study in New York. So these are our verbs. Lived, working, study. 3 verbs, all different tenses. So we need to have the same tense. So I've lived in Italy, worked in Germany, and studied in New York. Studied in New York. Okay, so all the same tense. Or I live in Italy, work in Germany, and study in New York. Or if you want to change it to the future tense, I will live in Italy, will work in Germany, and will study in New York. But make sure that every verb in that sentence has the same tense. That's a parallel form. Okay, subject-verb agreement. The most common of these mistakes is the missing S in the present simple tense. So present is now. However, there are other types of mistakes. Always look for these mistakes in the helping verb. So incorrect. Tom played guitar in a band. Okay, so that's incorrect. It needs to be Tom plays guitar in a band. So remember, the singular form of the verb usually has an S on it. And because Tom is one person, we need the singular form of the verb play. Incorrect. They was sleeping when she telephoned. We need the past tense form. They were sleeping when she telephoned. Okay, so make sure that your subject agrees with the verb, or sorry, your verb agrees with the subject. So the form of the verb to be for past tense plural is were, not was. Was is singular. Okay, and then there's missing commas after linking language. So generally when there's linking language, so if you have something, an introductory phrase, so however, therefore, as a result, in conclusion, you put a comma after it. So when using an introductory phrase as linking language, such as a conjunctive adverb or sequencing word, use a comma after the phrase to continue the sentence. So incorrect. As a result, children should start studying math as early as possible. So your introductory phrase, as a result, you need a comma after it. As a result, children should start studying math as early as possible. Therefore, children should start studying math as early as possible. In conclusion, children should start studying math as early as possible. So there's that little pause after it. Instead of as a result, children. As a result, children. Okay? So make sure you put your commas after your linking language. Okay, so let's do a bit of practice now combining sentences. So we talked about how to combine sentences using conjunctions and using different punctuation. So first one, she went to work. She did not want to go. It was a long drive. Okay, so three ideas, all about the same person. She went to work. She did not want to go. It was a long drive. So instead of having three short, choppy sentences, we want to put them together so that they flow better. So she went to work. She did not want to go. So she went to work even though I shouldn't have I need that she. So what we're actually doing is we're getting rid of that period and we're changing that uppercase to a lowercase, T-H-O-U-G-H. So she went to work even though she did not want to go. Get rid of that period because it was a long drive. So then we've got one compound complex sentence. She went to work even though she did not want to go because it was a long drive. So it sounds more interesting than and more mature than short, choppy sentences. Number two, the boy stole a car. He stole it from his neighbor. The boy is 15 years old. So it's all about the boy. All the sentences are about the boy who stole the car. So let's see. We got the boy stole a car. He stole it from his neighbor. The boy is 15 years old. So let's put this one at the beginning. So we can go 15-year-old boy. So now we've combined the first sentence and the second sentence. Stole a car. And instead of repeating he again, stole a car from his neighbor. Okay, and there we go. We have one sentence that has all that information instead of three short, choppy sentences. So instead of the boy stole a car, he stole it from his neighbor. The boy is 15 years old. The 15-year-old boy stole a car from his neighbor. It sounds more interesting and it flows better. Number three, polar bears are fierce. Polar bears are territorial animals. Grizzly bears are the same. So we've got information here about polar bears, two sentences. They're fierce and they're territorial. So we can combine those and go and say polar bears So wait a minute. Polar bears are fierce, polar bears are territorial animals, and then we have the same thing. Grizzly bears are the same, so we can say polar bears and grizzly bears are fierce and territorial. Okay, we don't have to say animals because we know that polar bears and grizzly bears are animals. So we just say polar bears and grizzly bears are fierce and territorial. Okay, number 4. Mark told me not to go with him. He said goodbye. He walked away. Okay. So Mark told me not to go with him, comma, as he said goodbye and walked away. Okay, so getting rid of the he's, repetitive. Mark told me not to go with him as he said goodbye and walked away. Why is it as he, lowercase h. Okay, number 5, I will not give in to you. I will not let you push me around. So I will not give in to you or let you push me around. Okay, so again, making it flow. My father's 95 years old. My father loves to drive. He loves to drive during the day. His nursing home lets him drive before 5 p.m. Okay, so and we can join this together. There's a couple of ways of doing it. Whoops, I wasn't going to do that. So my 95-year-old father loves to drive during would help if I spelled it right. D-U-R. Need a pen. What the heck? During the day, so his nursing home lets him drive before 5 p.m. I'm going to use the ellipsis here because I'm leaving out the rest of the words. Okay, so my father's 95 years old. My father loves to drive. He loves to drive during the day. His nursing home lets him drive before 5 p.m. So I can put all that together into my 95-year-old father loves to drive during the day, so his nursing home lets him drive before 5 p.m. Sounds better. Less short, less choppy. Okay, my cat was hungry. She had not eaten since breakfast. She was meowing loudly. So my cat was meowing, M-E-O-W-I-N-G, meowing loudly because she had not eaten since breakfast and was hungry. There. Okay, Mary and Cheryl were bored. They couldn't think of anything to do. They decided to babysit for the family. Okay, so this one, Mary, and Cheryl were bored because, it's a joining word there, because they couldn't think of anything to do, so they decided to babysit for the family. Okay, so just again, 3 short choppy sentences, joining them together into one that's sounds better, flows better, and is more interesting. Number 9, a book can be a lot of fun to read. A book can be boring. So a book can be a lot of fun to read, comma, but can be boring. So we're not repeating the subject. We're just leaving it out in that case. Number 10, I want to go to a movie. I want to go with Paul. I'll ask Paul to go to a movie. Okay, so I want to go to a movie. Get rid of that. With Paul. So I'll ask him. And we don't need to add the rest of it to go to a movie because we've already said it. I want to go to a movie with Paul, so I'll ask him. Period. Okay, so there's lots of different ways to combine sentences, and combining sentences, especially if they're short, choppy sentences, makes your writing sound better. It makes it sound more mature. So when you write something down, and especially if you're writing, trying to write a paragraph, generally for our first draft, we just get our ideas down. So it doesn't matter if our sentences are short and choppy or anything like that when we start to write. We just want to get our ideas down. But then after you've done that, after you've written your ideas down, then you need to go back and look at everything and ask yourself, does this sound right? Read through it as you've written it, not as you picture it in your head, because there's a difference. Sometimes we know what we want to say and we think we've said it. But when we go back and look at it, or somebody else looks at it, they go, what? I don't get it. Because something is missing. We've filled it in because we know what we want to say, but it's not actually there. Okay, so you need to be aware of that. Okay, so that brings us to key question 7. Combine the following sentences so they flow more smoothly. So there's 4 sentences, 4 these questions for you to do. Number 1, I was exhausted. I stared at the page. I was unable to comprehend a single word. So take those 3 sentences and join them together so that they sound better. Don't just do I was exhausted, comma, I stared at the page, comma, I was unable to comprehend a single word. Don't just replace the periods with commas. Think about it. I was exhausted. I stared at the page. I was unable to comprehend a single word. So we've got I. So we don't need to repeat I all those times. I was exhausted as, or we need to keep the I there, I guess. Get rid of the period. I was exhausted as I stared at the page, and then get rid of the rest of it, unable to comprehend a single word. Okay, so simple. Get rid of the first period, put in the word as, get rid of the second period and I was, and then you've got your sentence. I was exhausted as I stared at the page, unable to comprehend a single word. Or you can switch it around. I was unable to comprehend a single word because I was exhausted, so I just stared at the page. Okay, there's more than one way to fix your sentences. Okay, then number 2, bears emerge from hibernation in the spring. They wander through forests. They feed mainly on grasses. How can you, and it's all about bears. So do you really need to say bears, they? Can you take out one of those pronouns? Number 3, the boy asked his father about a question. A question. The boy is 5 years old. The question was about that was about life. So how can you combine that? The 5-year-old boy asked his father a question about life. Okay, some words you don't need to repeat. Number 4, I hate housework. Housework is very boring. It takes too much time. I especially dislike mopping the floor and ironing. How can you combine that? Okay, you don't want to leave out too many details, but you can make it flow better. Okay, so the next thing that we're looking at in lesson 1 is commonly misspelled words. Okay, so that's on the bottom of page 36. There's a list of commonly misspelled words on page 37 and page 38. And take a look at this list because these are words that I do see pretty often in students' writing that are misspelled. So look through that list. Then support question 16. Make sure you do that support question. Take your time and then check your answers at the end. Okay, so common spelling errors. First is single double letters. Sometimes you may get confused as to whether you should put a single letter or a double letter in some words. So for example, embarrassment needs 2 R's and 2 S's. Okay, so check your spelling. Okay, if you're not sure, use a dictionary or ask someone. Next, silent letters. Silent letters can be really tricky. Lots of times when we're talking, we don't say a lot of letters in the words, but when you're writing, you need to make sure you put it in there. So for example, handkerchief. Okay, that's usually the way people say it, handkerchief, but that's incorrect to write. When you write it, you have to actually put in the D, handkerchief. We don't say it that way. And the same thing, we don't actually say handkerchief, because this word is chief. We say handkerchief with an E in there, but we have to make sure that when we spell it, when we're writing it, that we spell it correctly. Wednesday, same thing. Okay, we say Wednesday. We don't say the D. We say W-E-N-E-S-D-A. What? Wednesday. But we need the D in there. February. Okay, has an R in it. We don't say that R. We don't say February. We say February. But when we're spelling it, we need to make sure that we put all the letters in. Number 3, position of I and E. This one's tricky. So which comes first, the I or the E? There are many words that come across. So, receive as an example here. R-E-C-I-E-V-E is incorrect. It's E-I. So there is a rule that I learned when I was in elementary school. I before E except after C. Sorry. Or when pronounced like A is in neighbor and way. Okay, so that's what I learned. And if there's a word that I'm not sure about, I will run through that in my head. And then if I'm still not sure, I look it up in a dictionary. So is it I before E or E before I? So that's a tricky one to get. So again, it's just a matter of, if it's a word that you use often in your writing, make sure that you learn to spell it properly. If it's not a word that you use, look it up when you do need to use it. And then confusion with or and er. So should you use or or er? You find some words that end in or, so doctor, while you use er in some words, gather. And they sound the same, doctor, gather. You're likely to get confused in this case, and hence you need to be careful with these words. So for example, traveler, or is not correct. It's traveler. And there's a lot of words that end in or and er. So again, if it's a word that you use fairly often in your writing, make sure that you learn to spell it correctly. And then some of the writing how you speak. So for a non-native speaker, we'll often borrow some words from the local language, or speak some words incorrectly with the local accent, and thus try to write English words in the same way. So for example, some people will say modern. Okay, modern is incorrect. The correct word is modern. And there's lots of words like that people, the way they say them is not the way they should be said. It's really bad. Where I'm from in Newfoundland, people don't pronounce the words correctly, but they will spell them the way they say them, and so then it's confusing when you're trying to read someone's writing. And then, of course, words that sound similar. So there's a list of these words in your lesson, so make sure you go through those and learn them, especially, again, like I said, words that you use fairly often. So these are called homonyms. So for example, accept and accept. So accept, starting with an A-C-C, is kindly accept my apology. So it would take my apology. Except, I work every day except Sundays. So it's an exception. There, and there, very commonly mixed up. So their, T-H-E-I-R, is a possessive pronoun, their friends. Their, T-H-E-R-E, is preposition, over there. And T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E is a contraction for they are. So there's a lot of them, two, and there's, like I said, there's a list in your lesson, so have a look at those. How to avoid spelling errors. So People who write free from spelling errors read and write a lot. So make it a habit to read lots of different things. Practice writing words where you usually make mistakes. Play spelling games online that would help you to remember the words. And a basic tip that once you make any spelling error, remember the correct spelling of that word confidently and then try to avoid making the same mistakes again. Okay, so that brings us to key question 8. There are some commonly misspelled words, some homonyms here. Some of them are. Use each one of those in a sentence. Use them correctly in a sentence to show that you know how to use them correctly. Okay, so that is it for our class today. Please complete key questions 7 and 8 and send to me as soon as possible. And in class on Wednesday, we'll be finishing up lesson 1. So good luck with those key questions and enjoy the rest of your day. Miigwech.